when the Commanders hear that the Texans are thinking about trading Laremy Tunsil, I'm thinking, what's Caserio know here that I don't? Like, I don't know that I want to play poker with Nick Caserio because he got one over on the Browns pretty good. I don't want to be his next victim.
Yeah, I hear you there, and I'm sure people will be wary of that. But at times, like we're the Commanders, you just got to do what's best for your football team at this moment. And I think Houston's kind of doing the same thing. And I don't think it's with the Tunsil thing, not trying to get over on anybody. It just goes back to the conversation I think we were having a few minutes ago where we're praising the good GMs. They just stay ahead of the game a little bit. Wait, really good player, kind of coming to the end of the career, still got value out there on the market. Let me make a move and get rid of him, right? Clear some money off. We got some big players I'm going to have to pay here soon. He's the type of guy getting up there in age. I've been around before. Sometimes they get injured and I get stuck with them. Oh, they need one really bad. Okay, let's ship him out. It's not easy. We still need a left tackle too now, but damn, it's just a move that I feel is necessary for the future of the team, and that's where he's been great. And that's where we used to praise Bill Belichick in his prime of the ability to get rid of a guy maybe a year too soon or a year before it starts to fall apart and go downhill. And I think Caserio learned that lesson. He's trying to, stay up to par with the things he's learned in those years in New England.
Yeah, Bill was a master at that until he got rid of Tom Brady a few years too soon. It
Right.
worked very well until it didn't.
That's right.
Here's Laremy Tunsil now with the Commanders on why the Houston Texans traded him, at least how they explained that decision to him.
Pretty much, they're just trying to keep the young guys together. As simple as that. When I was a rookie, and I was talking to my OG, who was Brandon Albert and Jermon Bushrod and Mike Powell, they told me it's a young man's game. I've seen it for myself. They drafted some young guys and they hit on every draft pick. They're trying to keep those guys together. So I fully understand. Like, they just paid Stingley today. Like, they just gave that boy that bag. So I truly understand. Like, it's no hard feelings. Like, at the end of the day, it's a business. You know what I mean? That I don't take anything personal. There's no hard feelings against the Houston Texans.
One of the realities for Laremy Tunsil last year, he led the league with 19 penalties. 19. He said yesterday, it was unacceptable. That's something I want to address for sure, getting that number down or even having none. And, hey, when you're out there and you've been in there when you're trying to get this chaotic ballet of 11 guys to stay still as long as they need to stay still, and Tunsil had some false starts and he had some holding penalties, and you're out there on an island and it's not the easiest thing to do, but we see these flags get thrown all the time, and when you count them all up at the end of the year, he was the king. He led everyone with 19 penalties.
Yeah, it's a down year, and from that standpoint, that's usually focused stuff. Again, maybe goes into the coaching. Why you're seeing Bobby Slowick not there either. Just a message that fell flat. I think you're seeing a cultural kind of referendum on their O-line in general, that they weren't maybe the Texans happy with leadership there, with the group in general, and we're seeing them change some pieces and move them around, and we know it's a draft that's got some good O-linemen, and I would be shocked if they didn't address that somewhere early on, at least in the first 3 rounds, to see where that goes, but obviously they weren't happy with that group. And then with Tunsil, yes, being the highest paid guy, being the old vet of the group, right, who's supposed to be the leader, and you're the one making mistakes, right? I think all these things we're talking about kind of lead you to why, yeah, they wanted to get rid of Tunsil, and looking at the core nucleus of their team, and something we talk about all the time too, right? Why wouldn't you want your core to be somewhat in the same age group so it can grow together? And that's, to me, what the beauty of Houston's got working right now. C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson, Stingley, right? We got him. We got Nico Collins, who's a little older than that, but not crazy. Tank Dell right in there in the mix with them. So there's a lot of players on the football team, some other young stars on the defensive side of the ball, where they're looking at that going, we want these guys to be the focus here, and they're going to be the core guys that you'll still know on the team 6 years from now, and we're going to move the pieces around them, and I think that's what they're trying to get accomplished. And again, that was kind of very New England-ish as the times went on with Nick Caserio and company there with Bill Belichick.
And to their credit, they didn't at the end of the 2024 season say, hey, we did as well as we did last year. We still got to the divisional round. We still gave a team that, made it to the Super Bowl a better run for their money than we thought. They didn't rest on that. They made some massive changes. And my guess is the seeds for a lot of these changes that we've seen were planted during a regular season that didn't go as well as maybe they thought it would. They had a tougher schedule. They had some tougher games. They got embarrassed at home by the Baltimore Ravens in that Christmas doubleheader on Netflix.
Yeah, that was
second
bad.
game. That was a snoozer. 31-2, I think, was the final score. That's even worse than getting shut out. Because, hey, man, the defense even scored today. Your offense is so bad, even your defense was able to score 2 points today. So I suspect that some tough decisions were made by Nick Caserio, by D'Amico Ryans, as the season unfolded, that when we get through this season, here's some things we're going to take care of. And first order of business was no more Bobby Slowick. And, get the coaching staff to where it needs to be. And now we're into the season where you move guys out and you reward the guys that are part of the solution. See, that's the thing. And I said this, I was on with the Sports Junkies last week because they're all excited about everything the Commanders are doing. And it's like, well, Laremy Tunsil gets traded. I mean, in Houston, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution, and they see him as part of the problem. That's why, and I understand you can do a mutual win-win here, but I would just have natural trepidation. I think it's harder to sell to the Commanders that Laremy Tunsil is a guy that's going to come in and make things better because he was viewed as part of the problem by the last team he played for.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at who they had at left tackle, they'd go, well, that problem ain't as big as the problem we had at left tackle, so that fixes some things. I think that's, sometimes it's just as easy as that. It's go, yeah, there might be a little problem here, but it ain't as big as the problem we got on our hands altogether, so let's bring him in. And then I do believe Dan Quinn and company really believe in the way they run a building, and a little bit like the Pete Carroll stuff that, hey, and as we know, guy changes team, it usually gives them a little bump in energy and focus, and they believe that, hey, what we do here in this building will straighten the guy out, we'll get him back on his P's and Q's and everything of that nature. I think that's the belief there altogether. He's still one of the best pass-protecting left tackles in football. That's for sure, right? And obviously his year was not up to his standard last year, but I'd be shocked if it wasn't better this year in Washington with a fresh start there.
Well, and when you look at the culture in Washington, the culture that has been introduced to the organization under the ownership of Josh Harris, but primarily with GM Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn, they're welcoming older players as part of their solution, that they needed to have something there where you bring in established guys who will take the message and run with it and can be relied upon to provide the leadership necessary to turn things around. And, when I remember when we were figuring out our executive of the year and I went and looked at the signings that Adam Peters made, and it's like, these are a lot of and they're all starting. These are a lot of guys that are just it's almost over for them, and maybe it already should be. And they come in and they start and they contribute, and some of them are back, like a Zach Ertz and a Bobby Wagner. So this may be exactly what Laremy Tunsil needs. That's the thing. Whatever he needs, he wasn't going to get in Houston because they're skewing younger and they're thinking we got to trim fat and we got to get to the guys that are going to be part of the core moving forward. In Washington, it's like we've got this mixture of old and young that can come together and do something magical, so they welcome Tunsil into that group of the older guys that mesh with the younger guys and create this vibe that almost got them to the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to see how it can be a win-win, and maybe that's the way it's a win-win.
Well, I think so. I think you're on the right page there, the right path. And I've had some conversations with people in the NFL kind of about this topic through the years a little. And even with Nick Caserio and the Houston Texans, think about when he first got the job. There was a lot of veteran players that he gave a lot of 1- and 2-year contracts to. I remember you and I talked about it. We were like, can you get over all the guys the Texans signed for 1- and 2-year deals? They're kind of the first team to me that started to make this a thing more or less in the NFL. or at least one of the first few teams that did that. And I think they did that, and then slowly you start to infuse your system of scouting and the guys we do like in free agency that are maybe a little younger because we're building up an inventory, and our college scouting's in the right place, and slowly you start to infuse younger guys, and they start to push out those 1 and 2 year contract older guys. And I think that's what you're seeing in Houston now. They've gotten to the point where those older guys are dispersed. We're seeing the young nucleus, and I think that Washington, from what it looks like, might be trying to replicate the same thing. Let's get off the ground running. Let's get some guys in here that can play football. We're not teaching them. We're not building them up. We're not trying to grow them as players. They're ready, so we can look at our fan base and go, look, we're doing good right off the bat, and then slowly they'll try to get younger and infuse that too. We'll see where it goes, but it is interesting. I have had these talks, and it seems to be a little bit of a thought process with the new GMs throughout the NFL.
Or Washington is bringing back the over-the-hill gang.
Maybe, or they're going that, and they're just going, screw it,
70s.
we're going to go older team and beat you with experience, and we know what we're doing all the time, and we'll have a quarterback that plays like an older guy who's very mature and, of course, awesome, and Daniels.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.